Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Nivedhan Singh. I'm the manager of education and community engagement at the Tennessee Performing Arts Center, and I work very closely in my department with my colleague, Kristen Horsley. Thank you all so much for coming. This is a Zoom webinar meeting, and therefore your mics will remain muted. If you have any questions, feel free to add them to the chat, and we will address them at the end during the specified Q&A portion of the program. Today, we'll discuss performing in the 2023 Six Broadway Tour, and this is a TPAC webinar discussion. TPAC Inside Out webinars are part of TPAC's community engagement, and the show Six will be here in Nashville from February 21st through the 26th. It's now my pleasure to introduce our moderator for today's discussion, Tosha Marie. Tosha is the owner and executive director of TMProductions and is a choreographer, director, actor, and producer. And we are also so lucky to have Tosha as a TPAC teaching artist. So without further ado, take it away, Tosha.
All right, thank you so much. Well, hello, everyone. We are so excited to have this opportunity to chat with you about what it means to be in this awesome production of Six. Before we dive in too deep, I would love if you would just take a moment, introduce yourself, tell us what part you're playing in the show, and then just kind of tell us a little bit about who you are. What's your background? Where are you from? What you doing?
Cool. Hi, I'm Cecelia Snow. I am an alternate on the Six Berlin tour, as well as the dance captain. And I'm currently, I'm on tour, but I live in Westchester, New York, which is a cute little suburb right outside New York City.
Cool. My name is Zan Berube. I play Anne Boleyn. She is the second wife of Henry VIII. I am from Boston, Massachusetts, and I got my BFA from the University of Michigan, class of 2020, and then I graduated and moved to New York City, and now I'm on tour.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amina Faye. I play Jane Seymour. She's the third wife of Henry VIII. My parents are originally from Senegal and West Africa, but I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I went to Penn State and got my BFA there in 2020 as well. And I'm in Iowa and soon to be in Nashville.
That's awesome. Well, shout out to the recent grads. Congratulations. That's super exciting. 2020 and then COVID. And now here you are on a tour. That's incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So would one of you mind giving us a brief summary of Six? Tell us a little bit what the show is about for those of our viewers who may not know.
Yeah, Six is basically a retelling and reclaiming of the six wives of Henry VIII and their stories. Instead of from the male perspective and the male gaze, it's them telling you how they lived their lives and how they want to be remembered. And basically, it's ultimately a competition, right, at the beginning to see who had the worst marriage with Henry VIII. And the audience is a really big part of that. So, yeah.
Very, very exciting. I love when we get to tell stories from the female gaze. You know, it's pretty exciting. I know the recent tour of 1776 is an all-female production, which is going to be really exciting to see. I haven't gotten a chance to see it yet, but so we love female empowerment stories. So as we touched on before we got started, we recently had an open call for Six here in Nashville. And so we got to be a part of the process and see what it was like to audition for a Broadway show. Would each of you mind sharing your experience of how you came to be a part of Six and what that process was like for you?
I'll just hit just the logistics. You first go in, you sing a song from your book, like a pop song, two contrasting pop songs. Then they call you back for a queen or any queen that they kind of see you in. You then go in with the sides of that queen and the songs of that queen. And if you get past that, then you go in for the dance call. And the dance call is like two dances. I believe it's Get Down and All You Want to Do. And then after that, it was this long process of going back in, doing some group stuff. Like the opening chat is like the first thing that we do as queens, addressing the audience. And I will say that the crazy but also cool thing about Six is that with these auditions, you audition in front of all other people that are auditioning for the same queen as you. That's how it was. I don't know if they're still doing it like that. I don't know if they did that in Nashville, but in New York. So all the women that were called in for Jane Seymour, we all did our songs in front of each other, and we also did our monologues in front of each other. Is it torture? Maybe. Was it also maybe just to see, like, you know, are you a person that can see someone else? Because I think the essence of Six is it's an ensemble show through and through. Yes, we are principals, but we are ensemble members first and foremost. I like to call it a relay race. Like Aragon starts with it, and then we end all together. So having to be in such a high intense situation, but still having your heart open, your ears open, and cheering on the stranger who wants the same job as you. Kind of brilliant, but also a little, a little interesting. So essentially it was a long process. And then finally, I first auditioned for the Aragon tour and I didn't get it. And then I came back in for the Berlin tour. So it took a year of my life, honestly, essentially, with COVID and different interruptions. Yeah.
Yeah, well, for the open call, they did not have to sing in front of each other. So I can imagine that's a whole different kind of pressure. Absolutely. We did have people waiting outside the building starting at 5 a.m., I think was the earliest that someone got here. And it was cold that day. Nashville weather is ridiculous. We already talked about this was the day it was like 30 degrees in the morning, which is
of
cold.
Course.
Yeah.
But yeah, people were waiting outside the room. Can you explain what an alternate is?
I'll let Cecelia explain that. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go to Cecelia. Tell us about your Six experience.
Yeah. So there's 4 alternates on this tour, and we each cover 3 queens. So that's 12 tracks total between the 4 of us. And so each onstage queen has 2 people that they can rely on for coverage. So I cover 3 different queens. I cover Aragon, Seymour, and Cleves. So I know all 3 tracks. I can go on with a moment's notice and just put on the costume, the wig, and do it. Which I mean, like, is a flex, but is also very hard. Our rehearsal process was challenging and very taxing. But overall, once everything was said and done, I think it was like roughly 3 months with opening and then our layoff and whatever. It was about 3 months before we finally got everything, before we finally got like all of our tracks learned. But when you finally do, like, it is extremely rewarding. I didn't sleep for a good portion of time, but I feel great now. We've all debuted our queens, and I think we did it in like 5.5 weeks, which no one really expected. But like, these 3 other alternates are truly like superstars. Like, the things that they can remember and like to be able to do what we do, like, it's so challenging, but it really is so rewarding and so wonderful. And then to be able to like cheer on my fellow sister Jana, who covers like 2 of the queens that I covered. Like, it's really exciting. We would all like go out and watch each other's debuts, and vice versa. They do the same for me. And so it's a great experience. But yeah, it's a lot of hard work, but our creative team also like sets us up for success to make sure that we have enough rehearsal time, and then we still rehearse once a week. And we've got a lot of different resources between our script and our iPad and the Six Bible that like has all the choreography, the formations in it. Like, we have enough to be able to keep us on our toes and just be prepared, because, this is live theater and anything can happen. And the job of an alternate is to be prepared. And I'd like to say that the 4 of us are all doing an incredible job, and we are all very prepared, and I'm really proud of us. So yeah, that's our job as alternates.
Zan, why don't you tell us about how you came to be a part of the show?
Yeah, sure. I sent my first tape in during the height of COVID. So I was a graduating senior 2020, and I sent in 2 cuts of me singing pop songs. And then it kind of disappeared out of my life for probably a year. And I moved to New York City. I started auditioning. Thankfully, they were seeing people in person now, submitting into the ether and just singing to a wall in a camera in a tiny apartment was really hard for a while. So I think I was just so excited to be back in the room. And my agents were like, hey, Zan, they want to see you again for 6. And I was like, the trauma. Okay, sure, I'll go back in. And then I got to go in person and actually meet the creative team. And when I met them, I think my heart was set on this show just because it was an all-female panel. They made the room so warm, so comfortable, and sometimes it's not that way. So I was like, I want to work with these people. I love the show, but I want to work with the people. I want to learn from them. And I think I went in probably 6 times from initial to the final date of callbacks. And I actually met Cecelia through this process. We started the journey together and we formed a bond and a connection. I was like, oh my God, I recognize you. Congrats, you're back. And yeah, it was fun. I got to sing in front of so many incredible women and meet some of my lifetime friends now. And it was great. I originally went in for Anne Boleyn, and then they added on Kay Howard, and then I just ended with Anne. So I got to meet 2 of the queens during the audition process.
Very cool. Yeah, I was fortunate enough last year to be a part of a production that was an all-female cast, all-female production team. And it really, it is an incredible experience. Will you speak to how being a part of such a female-centric production has been different from maybe some of the other productions you've been a part of?
Sure. I mean, they set the tone to be comfortable, open, and honest from the very beginning. I think our first day of rehearsals, we started with a circle exercise where we got to say how we're feeling that day and what we're grateful for. And then from that process, I think it just built this reliability on everyone. I'm here for you. I got your back. You can feel how you're feeling, bring it into the space, and we'll work with what we're dealing with today. And I feel like that's an experience I've never had in a rehearsal process. And I feel really grateful to have experienced it because I want more of that. So hopefully we can bring that on to our next jobs and so on and so forth.
I'm lucky. This is my 3rd all-female cast consecutively in the past 3 years. But it's never been actually, Love and Hate was this tiny. It is the thing that I was the most scared about was I was like, this is so small because it's only 10. The last show that I did was 24 women. So that was huge. It was just on a different scale. But I think with this process, I've really learned with that process, there was a lot of people and we were all really close, but I live with these people. I mean, I eat with these people. We travel the world together. And so it's just different. They truly are my sisters. In a sense, it's just interesting. Our Cleves calls it, because we had a layoff, and she calls it last semester and this semester. In some ways, in the best ways, I feel like I'm in this traveling sorority, in a non-toxic way. And I think we're just really good at, one thing, to not get into it, but the kind of contract that we are on, it's called a favored nations, meaning we all make the same. It just sets the precedent that we are all equal, that again, we are all ensemble members. And so I think also with that in mind, it just sets this tone for we are all really important. I would say the most important people in our production are our alternates, because again, they save our asses time and time again. So they're definitely top tier, but then the rest of us, we are all equal. So we can just have this open transparency that I don't think you would ever get in any other company. We are all like, this is what we need together. This is what we're going to fight for together. This is what's really hurting together. There's just this transparency that I think, even if we were on a favored nations contract with, you know, other men, it still wouldn't be the same. Like, we are all the same. And it's just that transparency that I don't think I'll ever get ever again. I hope I do, but I don't think I'll ever get it again.
Cecelia, do you have anything you want to say about this process, being in this awesome group of gals?
Oh God, it's really special because we, like Amina said, like we travel the country together. Like, we are everywhere together. And I think it can be really easy, and this is my third tour, and so like there are days that are really hard, and then there are days that are really fun. And the cast and the people you tour with, like the crew and the band and everybody else, the people that you tour with can make or break your experience. And I've been very fortunate that my first two tours, like, they made the experience. And on this one, it's no different. Like, they have truly made the experience. And there are days when, like, it was like just the other day, I was like, oh, I miss my husband and my home and my cat. And like, but coming into work and being surrounded by such incredible humans, we've also got like truly the best crew. Like, I have been singing their praises for months now, like, because I've had crews where like I've been harassed, or like I have to avoid that guy like the plague, and like that's just not something I want to do in a place that is like my home. And like the theater is, we spend so many hours there. I'm so blessed to be able to have such an incredible crew, such an incredible band, and an incredible group of sisters on this tour. I mean, we celebrated 3 birthdays the other day, and like all got together, and like, because this is birthday week for our cast. And we went out in Dallas and got the best sushi I've ever had in my life. And I toured Japan for 4 months. Like,
in Dallas?
Yes,
you see
Dallas. It's
Yes.
called Uchi, girl, and you gotta go. It's good.
So good.
I'm there. I love me some sushi.
It's a bit pricey, but let me tell you, it is worth every penny, because we still talk about it, and we might go back in October. We might. That might be how we close out this tour, is going to Uchi. But the 10 of us like just got together and just bonded and talked, and you know, like, loved on each other, and it's such a privilege to be able to have that, because it is so not the norm, this love and this kind of environment. And I'm just so thrilled. Every night before we go on stage, we all look at each other and say, I've got your back, I've got your back. And we like make eye contact with every single person and say, I've got your back. And I can like very honestly say that, like, both on the stage and off the stage, I truly do feel like everyone I tour with, everyone that gets on that plane and heads to Nashville and then to Des Moines and then to this place, like, I truly do believe that they have my back, and I 110% have theirs. So it's really a special thing that we get to be a part of, and not everybody is so lucky. So I'm very grateful for that.
Ah, that's amazing. That just warms my heart right up. I'm so happy for y'all. Can't wait to see the show. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what tour life is like? So you guys hop on planes, then do you stay at hotels? Are you at Airbnbs? Like, does everyone go on the plane, or is there like a 6 bus that travels around? Why don't you let us know what the logistics are of the touring life?
You know, it kind of depends on where we're going. Most of the time we are on planes. Every once in a while we get a bus, but it kind of just depends on, like, you know, how long is the bus ride? If it's going to be any more than like 6 hours, like, we're getting on a plane. And then like with equity rules and IATSE rules, like, you got to stop every so often and yada, yada, yada. So, there is not like a big like tour bus, like, you know, if you were like a pop star, there's not like this giant bus with like our faces across the side of it. Like, that's not what we're riding in. It usually says like Peter Pan across the side of it, like a normal bus. Yeah, and then we have options of staying in hotels. Our company manager finds us different housing options. And then if we're like, I don't really know if I want to do a hotel this week, like, or we're going to be here for 3 weeks, like a hotel might not work for me. We get Airbnbs. I'm staying in one right now. That's why there's like this like pillow here and like my bed's on the other side, like it's a whole thing. But yeah, so it just kind of depends on like your preference and then like what's affordable. And it gets a little complicated because we're not, it's just like another like piece of work that we have to do, but that's also like a part of touring. It's just like finding the grocery store and are we going to get a car this week, and hey, this isn't a walking city, or hey, this is a walking city, or I want a hotel this week, or whatever. It's just kind of a part of the process. But yeah, it's making those tour choices and adulting at its finest. And probably like at its most complicated, because I don't know anyone who's not touring that needs to worry about where they're gonna live every 2 weeks. It's a little complicated, but you make it work and you figure it out and you ask questions. And our company managers have been great about like just being able to tell us like, hey, this is a good plan, like maybe not that, or like this is what the city's like. We've got so many people on this tour who have been touring for years and years and years, and so they can tell you exactly what every city is like, and what are the places to hit, what are the places to avoid. We've got a lot of really experienced people on this tour that can help guide us as well.
Awesome. Well, if you need to know some Nashville places, hit me up. I'll tell you all the details.
Yeah, drop them in the chat, girl. Where am I going to eat?
Yes, we love to eat. We love to eat. Tell us where to eat.
This cast loves to eat, so you tell me where to go. We'll be there.
All right. Well, since it is so hectic and, there's so many different variables in the touring life, what are your consistent pre-show rituals to get you back in that zone that you find yourself is like comforting and like, okay, I'm here. I know this is consistent. I'll be able to do this and get in the zone every single time, no matter the city. Who wants to share their pre-show rituals? Woo!
Yeah, I think so. Every show we start off with group rituals. So we have a group warm up physically. Cecelia leads that because she's our dance captain. And then we have a group vocal warm up. And then I think we all disperse and we kind of get into the zone of what's going to bring us to the stage. For me, I really like to give time to getting into Anne's body. So I do a few little extra warm-ups. Also, it's really important that we make sure our body is warm and our muscles are ready to move before we step onto the stage. So my costume call is at 10 minutes till places. So when I'm in costume, I do a 10-minute warm-up to make sure my muscles are ready, because we do dance in 3-inch heels and our costumes are heavy because my skirt is completely plastic and so is my top. So that adds on weight. Fun fact, Aragon, the first wife of Henry VIII, her costume weighs 12 pounds. So in addition to dancing in 3-inch heels, she is carrying a baby in her arms, basically. So for me, it's really warming up my body, getting into my feet, making sure I feel grounded. And then when I put on my red lipstick is when I really lock into Anne. I'm ready to go. It's her signature thing. It gets me in the zone. So yeah, those are some things I do.
What do I do?
You love bubbles. You're the straw donation queen.
Oh, okay. Yes, I have to do this is my thing. I know myself. I'm kind of superstitious. If I lock in a routine, the day that something happens and I can't, it is just gonna mentally unfurl. And because we are moving so often, and Tuesdays are always tricky because Tuesday's the first, like Monday, we just travel to the new city. So Tuesday we get there early and there's sound check and there's the tour of the new theater and no one knows where the dressing rooms are and we don't know where wigs are. So it's kind of crazy. So I tried to actually lock myself into just like going with the flow and not having a ritual down. But I think the thing that always centers me is, as Cecelia said, before we start the show, no matter what, we all hold each other's hands and we take like 4 breaths. One is slow, 2 are slow and 2 are fast. And we just like let that go. And then we all look at each other, because also the show is really interesting. I've never been in a show where it's a little ironic how we're so involved with the audience, but yet we're so kind of far. So we have in these ear monitors. Those ear monitors kind of disassociate us automatically. It's like being in like I call this show being in a deprivation tank, because all your senses are taken away from you. The lights are so bright. Also, depending on the theater that we are, sometimes these theaters with the lights, they I won't even get into that, but I'm passionate about the spotlights because I can't see. But with the lights, and then hold on, we've got glasses, and then we've got the ear monitors, and then it's just like a lot happening. So I think it's a good way to just look at each other, and kind of the only way that I can feel these girls is through energy, honestly. So taking those breaths in and then looking at each other and saying, hey, like, I've got your back. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. That honestly started in tech because we were all so thrown out by all these elements that they were putting in. It feels like they put on a hat on top of a hat on top of a hat. So that was just a way to be like, I don't know what this is going to be, and I'm really scared, but I've got your back. And the fact that we started that in tech and it's followed us through, I think that's the one consistent thing that no matter what we do, we also have the microphones that we sing with, and we do a sound check with them before every show too. And it seems like everyone has stuck with what they do. I don't know, so Cecelia, what do you do for yours? I don't know if they change for the queen that you cover, but every night I just like say a little prayer into my mic, and then I always say, today will be great because I will be great because I am great. And I always say that, and then I do the show.
Yes. I love that.
So for every queen, I don't really do I don't have a specific like this is my sound check. Like, I don't have it.
Yeah.
But when I was debuting the other 2, I would always hear Jerica go 4 4 4 4 4 because she's the 4th queen. And so now when I go on as Cleves, I go 4 4 4 4 4. Except it's always, I never like really remember the riff. That's probably the best time I've ever done it, honestly. Every time I'm like 4 4 4 4. Like, I can never remember where it is. But nobody can hear me because everybody's got their ear monitors in, so I'm just like laughing in the dark to myself, which feels very on brand if you know me. But when I debuted Aragon, I was really, really scared. Like, it's like that feeling when you're going on a roller coaster and all of a sudden your stomach like sinks and you're like, I might throw up in a minute. And I was really, really nervous, but I knew that like because Aragon was the first track I had learned at that point. Like, it had been in my body for like better part of like 2 or 3 months. So I was like, I know there's no reason to be terrified, but I am. And so I like gave myself like affirmations before I went on. And the last part of my affirmation was a quote from The Office, which is like one of my favorite TV shows. And it's Michael Scott. And he goes, I am Beyonce always. When like trying to compare him, I don't remember like who he is comparing himself to or like what the nature of the scene is, but Michael like stops whoever's talking to him and he's like, I am Beyonce always. And like, that's it. And then they move on with the scene. But I said that to myself and I just laughed. And also like Aragon is based off of Beyonce, J-Lo, Shakira. So like that helped centered me, but then I couldn't stop saying it. So now every time I go on stage, I say, I am Beyonce always.
Always.
The curtain opens and we go out.
What do you say, Zan?
Oh, I just say 2 2 2 2. That's it. I get into my resonance, remind myself that I'm second, and I'm ready to go.
Oh yeah. So for those who don't know, like each queen is kind of inspired by certain pop divas. So will you all share who your queen is one more time, what pop divas inspire that queen, but also who would your diva inspiration be as you personally, not your character?
Oh.
So written, mine is Adele. Like the style of the song is written in that Adele way. And I do think that Adele does inspire me. I always say, I think Beyonce inspires all the queens. I really do. I think there's a bit of her in every single queen. I know we like to put her like at the Aragon one, but I think she's in all of us, to be honest. So Beyonce too. And for me personally, I don't know if many of you know Yeba. She's got this song called My Mind, and that song really like there's a performance of her doing it like in like a little so-far like cafe kind of a thing, and the grit and like the vulnerability and like that video is creme de la creme. And so that video really inspired my song. And then as far as Jane is inspired by me. Amina Faye, my Jane, is inspired by me. Because this process has been hard in the sense that like we are not the first women to play these roles, and we certainly won't be the last. And so it honestly becomes like you see all the compilations on YouTube and you see all the people. I know they're just so excited, so they can't help but be like, oh my God, look at this one and this one. But they're kind of comparing people, which is like the thesis of the story is to not, but it's hard not to. You see 6 people, and of course you're going to compare, you know, and you're going to have your favorites. So I feel like within this process, I was really stuck on like who I should be. Like, this is how all the women before me have played Jane. And then also being a Black woman too, I was like, you know, am I allowed to bring my Blackness into this? Like, is there space for that? Because I've never seen that on a Jane on a Black body like mine. So there was just a lot of things. And then I was like, wait a minute, I am who I am as actors. What makes this show go and what's going to make it go far is that no matter how many times you see it, you're going to see it with different people, with different point of views, right? And so the day that I let myself influence my Jane was the day that I think it clicked in for me. So my Jane is inspired by Beyonce, Adele, Yeba, and Amina Faye.
Yes, we love that. Yeah, especially it's so hard as actors to have to like put on a voice, you know, or when you go into something, you're like, okay, now I need you to sound musical theater-y, scrout it. And you're like, now, wait a minute, like, this is not my voice. This is not who I am, you know, and especially as a woman of color, it's often go out, take us to church, you know, and most of the time, like sometimes not everyone has that kind of voice and not every character needs to be that. So loving that you're stepping into this role and representing it as your authentic self. Thank you for sharing that with us. I can't wait to see your performance. Yeah. Yay. All right, next.
Zan, you want to go?
Sure. So Anne Boleyn is inspired by my pop inspirations are Avril Lavigne and Miley Cyrus. I think they are so bold. They're so unapologetically themselves. They're authentic. They bring a super fun punk rock energy to the stage. They dance like no one's watching. And I think they've just always inspired me from the get-go. Their performances, their way of life, how they do interviews, everything has inspired my Anne Boleyn. And then I think in my day-to-day life, on the flip side, I really love Maggie Rogers. I think her lyrics are beautiful. I think she brings so much heart to her music journey, and I really enjoy listening to her. So if you catch me like walking down the street, I'll probably have her album on. So yeah.
All right, Cecelia?
Yeah, I'd say for Aragon, there's a lot of Beyonce in there. And I think I also like to make a long story short, I had a really hard time with Aragon. I mentioned before I went in and that was the queen that I was like born to play. And so then I booked it and then I was learning the role and I was like, this doesn't feel like me. It just like it was really difficult for me to really get into it. And I didn't understand why I actually started to dislike the role. And it was really disappointing. As I had learned Seymour and Cleves, I was like, why don't I like this? And I realized in Dallas, it took me months. I realized in Dallas that it was because I had been running from this trope of the angry Black woman my entire life, constantly, like not just in my personal life, but then in casting too, constantly being asked to do the Effie White. And I'm like, you don't actually want to see me do that. Or like, that doesn't feel like me. And so constantly running from this. And then here I am singing a song called No Way, where I am mad and like telling this man that like, there's no way. And so, we had a 3-week layoff, and I don't know what worked in my heart during those 3 weeks, but I came back and was like, I'm gonna just play this. I'm gonna just do my thing. I'm just gonna sing the words on the page, and whatever comes from me comes from me. And it actually wound up working. I was having the conversation with my resident director, and she was like, what changed? Like, this is like what you're producing is so good. And I was like, I don't know. I think I just kind of said, screw it. And ran with it. So kind of like Amina, I think my Aragon is like very much based on Beyonce, because that's like, I watched her growing up, and I watched her performance as a kid and was so inspired by it. But I think there's a lot of me in there too, because I had to like, I had such a struggle with this, and just had this like come to Jesus moment where I came back and was like, I'm just gonna be me, and like whatever that is happens. I'd say for Seymour, I'm a snag Amina's again. There's some Yeba in there because I love me some Yeba. There's also Adele. There's Kelly Clarkson in there too. More like not new Kelly Clarkson, but not like behind your hazel eyes Clarkson, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like she had that phase where it was like a little more rockish, and I'd say it was like post that Kelly Clarkson. And then some Demi Lovato too. They're incredible as well. And then I think for Cleves, originally it was based off of Rihanna and Nicki Minaj, and I like that and respect that, but it didn't resonate with me. And so my Cleves is based off of Lizzo and Alexis Rose from Schitt's Creek. You're gonna get a lot of let me explain from me in Lizzo. But I love it. I love Cleves. She's fun, and she's just kind of carefree, but she's also a badass, and very, I think in my own personal life, like I have embodied a lot of Lizzo. I've been really inspired by her, not just as a Black woman, but also as a fit, curvy woman as well. Like that is something that like in Six, we're getting to see more and more of it. And I will say that Six is doing a better job with body diversity than a lot of other shows. But nevertheless, even when I saw it both times, I was like, okay, there's one thick girl, woo! Like it was always like the one, or like there was nothing. And so like Lizzo stepping out and just being like, this is my body and I don't really care what you have to say about it, I know has really resonated with me. And being able to do that, and especially in the role of Cleves, has been really powerful and inspiring. And I've had conversations with fans that are like, thank you for just like being brave enough to get up on stage and like show your body. And I don't even think it's bravery. It's just like, this is what it is. Like, take it or leave it. And I love what Lizzo is doing. And so I try to put a lot of her positive energy into my own life, and then also into my characters as well.
Ah, incredible. Love it. Well, I don't know. You're all inspiring me. And I think you're inspiring a lot of our participants as well, because we've got a lot of questions. So let's take some of our watchers' questions. Very cool. Does the show feel like a rock concert or a musical?
I'd say rock concert. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it's like a good give and take of both. I think it's presented in more of a concert vibe because we are interacting with the audience, which makes the show so special for me. It makes it different every night. I always say you're the seventh cast member. So yeah, I think it's like a concert setting, but still there is storytelling through text. There is song evolution, and there's a twist at the end. So it's a concert with a musical underlay.
Yeah, totally agree with Zan. I think what makes it musical is that we are all theatrical. So is Beyonce. Even at that concert, she's theatrical as heck. So there's just this like, this like big out of body. I feel like with some, like I watched like hairstyles or something, and it's very like small, and it's very much like I'm gonna be here and like you all are gonna come into my world. Whereas we got to actually meet the writers Toby and Lucy last week. They came over from London, which was really, really cool for us to meet them. And they were like, wow, we never would have thought. They were just like, we're all in such awe to be like, wow, this thing that we wrote, we never would have thought people in Iowa would be watching. So it was so surreal for them, but it also then affirmed how they wrote it. Like in the beginning, Cleves goes, hi Des Moines or Nashville, how are you doing tonight? And then Belen goes, we said. So a lot of our job too, and it was affirming hearing Lucy say it, is that in a theatrical theater sense, we're like polite and we watch and we clap and we clap. But this show, we're like, to heck with all those rules. Like we said, hey, like come in. And so she was like, that's why we wrote it that way. Because we know that it would take people a second to be like, wait, what's happening? Yeah. So we were definitely, merging this rock concert and theater vibe together. And we're doing our best to make the audience feel like they are welcome to participate.
What's your favorite part of the show other than your own song?
I love standing behind Anna of Cleves in her song Get Down and charging forward with the rest of the girls right behind her in synchronized choreography. I just feel like the best, baddest version of myself, that I get to support her with all these women behind me just like charging forward at Henry. It's so empowering. Her song is just so upbeat. I love it.
Mm-hmm. I had a really fun time the other night dancing to No Way. I was on for Seymour a couple nights ago, and I was really feeling myself. Like I was really enjoying it. And I feel like I'm understanding, like there's a specific move called the Lotus, and I've been struggling with it for months. Like I just have not been able to get it down. And I was like, oh, I think I kind of get it now. Like it was really fun. And maybe that's like, my shoes are finally broken in, my costume's finally broken in. Like I'm a lot more comfortable in this show now than I was 3 months ago. But I like am now really understanding the choreography and like able to, like, pun intended, get down with it. So I think No Way right now, but ask me again in another month and it's going to change for sure.
Yeah.
What is an iconic show for you as a performer? So what other musicals and shows do you enjoy or like, or what motivates you, moves you?
Oof.
So
how much time do we have?
Yeah, really.
We can do like a top 3.
Okay, one that's been absolutely pivotal in my life is Ragtime. And fun fact, when I was in high school, I went to go see a tour of it featuring Cecelia Snow, which is insane. I know. We were one day in rehearsal and she was like, were you from North Carolina? Like, were you at the Night Theater? I was like, oh my God, that Ragtime tour I saw, literally Cecelia was in that. That is nuts to me. I was a senior in high school.
That just goes to show how old I am as well.
So Ragtime has been pivotal for me. The Wild Party is also one that's just really big for me. And then one that, obviously I'm gonna do it. Oh God, Rent, Hamilton, Heathers.
What do you think, Zan?
I can't pick. I'm such a musical theater nerd. I'm like, I just love them all. Like, if you get me in the audience of Wicked, I will be bawling through the show. Amina, you haven't seen it yet, right?
No, I've never
I
seen
have
Wicked.
to take you. I have
Okay.
to take
Oh,
you.
we have to go.
I want to experience your first time seeing Wicked with you.
Yes.
Yeah, Wicked, Legally Blonde, All Shook Up, Rent. I also love The Wild Party. I love musical theater. I love storytelling through song. So any musical is a good time in my book.
Yeah. I'd say I love Light in the Piazza. I really love it. Every time I put on the music, I'm like weeping just at the sound of it. This is a weird one. Shuffle Along, the one that came out back in 2016, really shaped me as a performer. I had just gotten off the Ragtime tour. I met Brian Stokes Mitchell, which like was mind-boggling, and like Adrienne Warren before she won the Tony. Like it was wild. But I loved it so much, but I had never seen I grew up with classic musical theater, golden age musical theater. That's what I loved. But I had never seen myself represented as a big woman, as a Black woman ever. And so to be able to see 8 fantastic brown women hoofing their lives away down stage center, like I remember weeping. And it was, I mean, I was 23 years old and realized I had no representation in that nature in my entire life. And I was like, oh, this is why it's so freaking important. Like, and making that connection at that age, like it was so pivotal for me. So that, I love me some Oklahoma. I want to play freaking Debbie Reynolds in Singing in the Rain. Like anything like golden age, like, and if I can tap dance, like put me in that. I just love, like Zan said, I love musical theater, and everything is, I don't know, I just love it so much, and it's a lot of fun. So yeah.
All right, Golden Age musicals. Speaking of history, how much of the history of the real life queens did you know before the show? Did you do a lot of research, or were you like, oh, I know exactly who this is?
Yeah, we did a lot of research. We read a book that I didn't finish, but I started. I honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you, I started watching The Tudors, which I know, liberties, but so good, hot men, it was great. But we definitely did do a lot of research, and we also did this really cool thing, this project where we all did like a PowerPoint on our queen, and we could do it in any type of like style that we wanted to. So Jenna and Terica did like a Wendy Williams like talk show / kind of thing. So we did a lot of cool things like that. But I honestly, because it is British history, I mean, in America, we're barely taught American history. So I definitely didn't know much about British history. So it's been cool to learn. And also like, there's so many things, like a lot of these women were like, so my brother, Jane Seymour's brother, ended up marrying Catherine Parr. Like they're all kind of interconnected. So there's been all these cool things that were like, oh my God.
There's a great documentary that we watched too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like in 3 parts, and I can't remember who it is. Why do I want to say Lucy something?
Yeah.
Her name was Lucy.
Yeah.
Lucy.
The host.
She's British, and she did this wonderful documentary. And I'm a documentary nerd, so it worked out for me. But she goes through each one of the queens, and like you get to see their burial place, and she tells you like about everything that happened in their lives, and like come to find out, like I think it was Jane Seymour was a lady in waiting to Anne Boleyn and Catherine of Aragon. Like come to find out all these things are really interconnected, which like gets a little skeezy in my personal opinion, but not the point. The documentary was incredibly helpful and insightful, and like also like easy to digest. Like I didn't know there was a book, and I certainly didn't read it. And even if I don't have the time, let's be very honest, I didn't have the time. So the documentary was easy for me to digest as I was learning 3 tracks.
All right, Zan, did you have to do any research for your character?
Oh yeah, I had to do plenty of research. Just like Amina, I wasn't well versed in British history by any means, especially their stories. I mean, maybe I had heard of King Henry VIII because he was the king, but I didn't know about the six wives, so I had to do a ton of history. Me and Taylor did our presentation together, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. They really helped us to learn about these queens, the creative team.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Zan, Amelia, Cecelia, Amina, Cecelia, we're so grateful that you took time out of, this crazy tour life to spend with us. We'll get to see you here in Nashville, February 21st through the 26th. I'll be going on the 21st. I'm very excited. And we just can't wait to see you rock the stage. Thank you everyone for joining us. And from all of us here at TPAC, have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.